I guess we can have a discussion about appointing a chairperson to this board, and then we can jump into the potential survey questions, if that's okay with everybody.
That's great.
So the meeting preamble during the COVID-19 emergency. Good morning. As we're assuming chair of the Communications Advisory Committee, I'm declaring that an emergency exists, and I'm invoking the provisions of RSA 91A23B. Federal, state, and local officials have determined that gatherings of 10 or more people pose a substantial risk to our community in its continuing efforts to combat the spread of COVID-19. In concurring with their determination, I also find that this meeting is imperative to the continued operation of town government and services, which are vital to public safety and confidence during this emergency. As such, this meeting will be conducted without a quorum of its body physically present in the same location. At this time, I also welcome members of the public accessing this meeting remotely. Even though this meeting is being conducted in a unique manner under unusual circumstances, the usual rules of conduct and decorum apply. I will start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their name, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting. And I think that was the end of the statement, and I can take a roll call, although I see everyone who's there. I can start with myself, Connor Berry. I am present, and I'm alone here in my office, my home office. Bob Glowacki.
Bob Glowacki. I'm here alone in the Exeter TV office in Town Hall.
Okay. Lindsay Sonnet.
Lindsay Sonnet, and I am alone at the moment.
Okay, and Selectman Darrell Brown.
Darrell Brown, I'm here alone in the Salt Cave.
Okay. And I know that, just for the record, Nina Braun, I believe was her last name, is not present at the moment. And Marcia McEntee, I might be mispronouncing her last name, is also not present and not expected to join us this morning. I realized that during our last meeting, I mentioned reaching out to the UNH Masters in Public Health, I think it was, student, to join the Communications Committee. And then it occurred to me I have no way to reach him. I don't have an email for him. I don't know him personally. So I just wanted to shoot it out to the group to see if, for our continuing recruitment efforts, if that's still something we'd be comfortable doing. And then if anyone has a way to reach him, I don't, unless he's watching this morning, which is highly unlikely. Bob, do we have an email from him?
No, Russ definitely does.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sure Pam would, because there's got to be some contact info for the other board that he's on. So I probably have his email somewhere. I can maybe I can email you, Connor, and Nick if Nick Campion, if I can find his email, and then you two can go from there.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and he may still go through the traditional hiring process with the municipal boards. I think he'd have to interview with the select board briefly before their next meeting. I think he'd have to actually apply. I think he'd actually have to fill out an application and submit it. And then I think he could join us at maybe our next meeting, or whichever meeting follows the next select board meeting when he'd be hired. And all of this assumes that he'd actually want to do it.
Right.
But I figured it doesn't hurt to ask.
I agree.
The other thing I was going to mention is that Bob, in an email exchange with me, introduced me to the 91A2 so-called meetings open to the public New Hampshire statute. And I was reading through it, and I think moving forward, in order to fully comply with this statute, what I may start doing is taking minutes of all of our meetings, and the minutes I think will look very similar to the agendas. I will include the names of the members who were present, and then I will include what says here in the statute is just a brief description of the subject matter discussed and any final decisions. And if we make motions or votes on decisions those also need to be recorded. And then they need to be open to public inspection not more than 5 business days after the meeting. And there are a few exceptions to that. I don't believe we fall under any of those exceptions. So in any event, this is, I guess, my long-winded way of saying the open meeting law in New Hampshire does require us to post not only the agenda, but the minutes of the meeting. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to just take some brief minutes so that they can be posted on the website. And that, I think, was my only other thing I just wanted to say about that. I'm happy to serve as the chair of the committee, if that's the committee's preference. I guess we have a thumbs up from Lindsay. Bob and Selectman Brown, if that's okay with you, I'm happy to take point on some of this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know the technicalities. I don't know if we have enough people present to officially vote you chair, but I think you're doing a great job with the agenda so far. So if you don't mind continuing,
thank you for taking it on.
That'd be great.
Yeah, no, I don't mind at all. It's I'm happy to volunteer. I love the town, and it's, I think we have a great mandate here on this committee. I think that the communications efforts can be improved, and I think it is important work. And our quorum issues, notwithstanding, we're probably always going to have some quorum issues. Then I will, just informally accept that responsibility, and I'll continue to post or draft the agenda and the notes of the meetings going forward. I emailed Bob a short Word document which had some of my suggested questions that I think should be included in some capacity on the survey that we were going to send out to Exeter residents. And then Bob, I think, incorporated that into a larger draft of a survey that we could send out to Exeter residents. I have not really had a chance to look at Bob's draft in depth. I did end up getting the link to work on my personal computer, but it doesn't work on my work computer. I don't know why. I think there's all kinds of security controls in place on my work computer. It just blocked it. So I unfortunately wasn't able to look too deeply into that. So I'm really only able to speak to the questions that I submitted. And then I don't know if Lindsay, if you had an opportunity to look at either the questions that I submitted or the draft that Bob had.
I did look at yours and did a quick run through. Those look great. I clicked on Bob's link just to see if it worked, but it didn't proceed with looking at that.
I can share screens too to show you if you guys wanted to take a look at it real quick.
Yeah, that might be great.
Yes, I mean, this is what it would look like to people, and we would put the town branding and colors all into it and stuff, but and I just started, drafting random text that would kind of go in there, but first section of, names and what kind of demographic questions would we want to get? This was my brainstorm, but maybe we want to go, really deep with this. Maybe we want to break it down by, gender identity or, a bunch of different things, backgrounds to see like what types of people like what kind of platforms for all that for communication. And then I was trying to, from your questions that you sent, Connor, I think one of the things we'll have to do is kind of, what are the kind of sections of questions that we want to ask? Like I was thinking kind of like how we're doing, what would, and then, this was one of the questions you popped in there. was, just how would you rate the following, departments on a 1 to 3 scale. I added in unsure or non-applicable because maybe, if you're a renter or something, you're never going to look at assessing or like even want to communicate with them or something. So, or, building, for example. So maybe, that is an option. Maybe there's something else I'm missing. But I like this kind of question. What kind of town info do you look for? I think that's good. I meant to add instead of your one, it should be a place where they can type in their own answer. Okay. But then we might get, paragraphs or something. So maybe adding a question, some non-required paragraphs, answers that people can give more feedback like that in. The next section, I think I took one of your questions from here, was like, what would you like to see? It could be another section. So it's, what platform methods should the town use more? And I wasn't sure how to phrase this, and that's what you guys can help me with too, is, what are your preferred method of communication? And there's one way to interpret that as, as it stands now, but what if it was better? What would your preferred method be? So I don't know how, maybe that's two different questions. Because maybe some people don't like the website, but they would prefer the website being the main place, or
that's
with Facebook or something like that. I forget what else I had in here. And then, just, closing suggestions. So, real simple, but what's nice about this is on the back end, we'll get, a lot of the data will all come into here into a spreadsheet, and it'll automatically start populating into charts and stuff like that we can, get some insight into. So if you guys want to start drafting some questions as well, or if anyone's watching this, they could send me some questions if they had some questions. Yeah.
My first impression is I think that looks great. I'm very impressed. I'm sure it was easy for you, Bob, because you're in the tech world, but that is very impressive. I think that looks great. I think once we could get it branded with the city specific logos and colors, I think it would look great.
Nina said she had something come up. She's going to try and hop on the phone. She can't get on Zoom, but she's going to try and call in just a minute. Okay, perfect.
Lindsay, did you have any first impression? I have a few other thoughts, but I can, we'll kick it out to the group.
I like it. I want to sit and look at it more and tweak it. I certainly like it. And I get what you're trying to say, Bob, there, that to draw out sort of what people want to see. So definitely spend some time.
I mean, one thing that came up to me when I started working on it was do we want to ask any questions to kind of evaluating people's awareness of our existing communication channels? And and I had started drafting a question that was like, which Facebook accounts do you follow? And I was typing them all in. But we can kind of get some of that data from just, Facebook, looking at how many people follow it. So, because I'm sure we're not going to get all the people who follow the page to do the survey. So we'll kind of be getting, what kind of questions could we ask that get that insight without, wasting our time of putting that stuff in.
I'd love to get Nina's eyes on this too. I think she has valuable input given that she joined because she was part of a committee that was, having trouble figuring out how to disseminate information. So that will be a really helpful perspective.
Yeah, if she jumps on and she's able to get a visual, maybe we can share the screen again, Bob, and just run through it one more time for her.
Sure.
Yeah.
Bob, what are our limitations in communicating over email? Did the same things still, can we have a working document that we're sort of tweaking and editing?
Not really. While it would be great to have, a Google Doc or something that we're all adding to or something, I think that could constitute a meeting, but I would probably defer to the select board rep on that, or, the town manager or something. But I would recommend questions, just you email me
Emailing you our
and
edits.
not the
Okay.
whole committee. And then I will start, I already have the document that Connor sent me, and I've made that into a Google Doc, so I can just start adding everybody's questions to there. And then, I'm kind of organically moving it around, like, oh, these kind of questions fit together and these ones fit together. And then I can add those into the draft. So I would say any feedback on the stuff we can talk about here together, but then if it's outside of here, just one-on-one with me would probably be the best.
Perfect. Easy enough.
Selectman Brown, you were going to jump in, I think.
Yeah, so I had a couple of points. I think it's great insight to want to get more self-identifiers, but we should probably be careful about, we should ask things that are relevant to the experience, user experience, rather than, the temptation can be there to create our own silos for our user base, and we should really be tapped into psychographics, or how people are using stuff versus who they are. And because, again, who they are may be in flux, or who they self-identify with could be in flux, and is probably not relevant for us providing, the range of experiences. And more to that point, places where you had, trying to figure out the ideal communication, I probably want to split that up into how do you like to receive things? How would you like to engage? So some people may prefer to check updates on their tablet, but they really want to use the phone when they, it's almost like a read-write thing of how do you like to read? How do you like to receive your output from the town? How do you want to engage or input or interface with the town? So I guess I'll offer some questions in that line that try to distinguish or to try to get people's user flow. Open-ended questions would be great, but you're probably going to need examples there for tell us the things because ideally this survey is attracting things you're not explicitly looking for. So like in data stuff, there's a carnivorous approach where you just take everything and then go through it later. It's like, well, we don't want to do that because we're not a corporate entity, we're government. So we really want to, but we do want to ideally get more insight than we're looking for. And you get by sticking to the task of, okay, what has your experience been? What would you like it to be? And that what would you like it to be is hard to elicit if people only have a limited set of experiences. So, some things that kind of, I think we can just flesh out deeper, getting people to envision their ideal experience, and more than by age set. Because again, if they're 19, they're getting ready to become 25 and move into another age set. So again, let's not go as deep in there as we should go into how do you use technology to communicate with the town? How would you like to, how could you? And then as well, like people who are residents or non-residents who are related to people in other psychographics or demographics, how do you think they would be best served? So that's it.
Perfect. Nina is on the phone. Do we have a way to unmute her?
Yeah. I can
She's
allow her to talk
number.
here, so she should be able to talk now.
Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry.
Hi, Nina.
I was on another call, and then so thank you, Lindsay, for letting me know. I was missing it.
Good morning, Nina, and I was late to our last meeting too. I think for similar reasons, tech issues. Can you see us, or are you just on audio?
No, I'm just on audio, okay. And that's a question actually quickly for Bob is an admin or participant number in the email sent so that people could potentially.
I believe when you get your email invitation to be a panelist, I believe there is call-in information on that.
Because I have the reminder information, and then it gives you the meeting ID and so forth, but it doesn't give your participant ID. But that would be on an original one because it doesn't change, right?
Yeah, it shouldn't change, and I would have thought it would have been on the in the reminder as well, but I can go back and check that stuff.
Okay. Sorry for interrupting about that, but yeah, that would be helpful. But I'll double check again. So thank you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, well, just Nina, I am looking at the reminder now. So there's a few. Well, the way mine reads is there's a few options to join using your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or Android, and there's links there. And then it says or join by phone, and then there's some.
Which I did.
Okay, and then
but
those
then you
didn't work.
have to have Well, no, that works. The only thing is when you're a panelist versus, just calling in as a as a non-committee member, you are not provided with a participant number. But if you're a panelist and you're able to speak and be unmuted, then you're provided with a participant ID on Zoom. So that's what I was looking for, is the participant ID to identify who I am so that I'm then allowed into the meeting to speak.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nina, to get you caught up, we sort of selected Connor as the head of this group. Do we have enough people, Bob, to do it formally now? Oh, Bob stepped away.
I think we have now 3 out of 4. And I don't know. I know Bob is generously kind of donating his time to be on the committee. I don't know if he's technically a member. I'm not sure. I'm more than happy to include him as one. And I know Selectman Brown kind of gave the nod. Is that okay, Nina? I just, it's not a power trip. It's just, I figure if I'm doing the agendas.
I'm grateful.
Absolutely. Yeah,
right.
No, I think we have to just vote on it to make it official. And I believe that my understanding is Bob is part of the committee because of his involvement with Exeter TV. So he's sort of like an advisor, like we have with the sustainability committee. So I don't know if, as an advisor, he'll have to clarify if he has voting rights, and then what we need for a quorum to vote. Those are some questions that, but I'm absolutely, yes. Thank you for volunteering to take on that role.
No, of course. No, I've enjoyed it so far, and it's not a burden for me. Bob seems to be kind of pulled into another meeting.
Okay.
So I'm not. Yeah.
We'll ask him.
Sorry about that. We're getting dividers to help with social distancing in the office. So someone just dropped by to measuring.
So, Bob, this is just completely a question, and nothing to be inferred by it. We just were wondering, what is your role on the committee? Are you more of an advisor to us, which, believe me, I'm sure we need and could benefit from? Are you also a voting member?
Yeah, so if you check out the website, I'm a non-voting staff member, similar to, I guess, how Dave Sharples is non-voting on the planning board and all of those boards. So I'm here as the conduit staff member, I guess, if you guys need to have questions about things, and also I'm here to take your input to, you guys, I guess, can sort of inform me on how best I can do stuff with the website and all that. So I'm kind of your go-between with the other town staff, I would say.
Okay.
And also, it's similar to how Daryl is he's the same, but for the select board, we're both non-voting members of the board.
Okay. Well, we're glad to have you in any event. So, okay. And then, Nina, we, and Bob can forward this to you, but Bob was able to share his screen and show us a representation of a potential online survey that we may push out to Exeter residents at a future date. We thought it looked great. We were just in the midst, when you jumped on the call, of discussing some of the content of the questions and some suggestions that we had. I really like the look of it. I think Selectman Brown made a couple of points, one of which was we begin the survey by asking a few demographic questions. I think the only ones on there now are general age categories. They think it gives a range. And then where they live, whether it's in Exeter or outside of Exeter, but in the Seacoast area. I forget, Bob, did you ask if they're just a New Hampshire resident in general?
Yeah, I think what I phrased in there was, because I don't know how we wanted to drill down. My initial thought is something we're interested in is because what we don't want is a bunch of people from out of Exeter saying how we should communicate necessarily, but we are interested in what their thoughts are. So I think I had Exeter resident, Seacoast resident, New Hampshire resident. So you can kind of see because if someone from Berlin is, doing the survey, not to say that, some opinions are more valuable than the other, but we obviously want to see what people in town want as well. But maybe there's a better way to phrase that or a better question to put in there.
I like it. I understood kind of where you were going with it. I think, obviously we're interested in the perspectives of Exeter residents, but there are, any number of people, even outside of New Hampshire, who travel to Exeter for any number of events or the great, restaurants and small businesses that we have and all of the things that we have to offer. And it's conceivable that people not living in Exeter would go on the Exeter Facebook or the Exeter website looking at announcements and, the goings on here. I'm interested in all perspectives. And I think that, I did like that question because I think it does kind of drill down whether, where people are from. As far as the age question, Selectman Brown, you said, would you suggest doing any demographic information other than where the person lives?
It's tough because there's a tech or a marketing idea that demographics don't tell you what you're looking for, but psychographics do. And so it could be something that's open-ended, like even with residency, where it's like, how do you self-identify with what's your relation to Exeter? So somebody in California who's got a second home in Exeter and really loves Exeter could self-identify as, here's my thing. Somebody who has a aging theme. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but it's really, it's a thing where we may consider a qualitative approach that, as we look at this one way, it's our charge is with streamlining communications, right? So it's not that there's different communication channels for each demographic, but it is that we've considered the scope of differences. We've considered the delta of different ways that people want to interact with the town, and we're the technology is responsive to that. So it changes based on who's coming to it. So that sort of coming backwards from that, it's like, what questions would you ask if what you were trying to do was develop a system that was responsive to all the people who you surveyed and many of the behavior types that they helped you identify as well. So their identifier is way less important than their helping you see how they map to different town usage groups. So if you take that really far, it's like, well, what would their demographic matter? You really care who they, what kind of usage patterns that they would map to. Because you're assuming that, the assumption would be that somebody under 20 would be more inclined to social media, shorter content blurbs, and more mobile friendly. Like, well, that may not be the case if somebody's got multiple screens, like Mr. Glowacki there. They may be fine for like high density. It's a under 30 person who does large amounts of data crunching. So the age gives you very little. And again, it's totally devil's advocate thing of, if we want to make our task as easy as possible, which would be to give us as much data as possible, and sifting through demographic data could be really, you could feel like we're making progress and be just creating silos that aren't, just mentally. So yeah, sorry to go round and round. I would like us to consider what happens when you leave it open-ended and ask what's actually important to us, which is how do you, who are you in relation to the town? And that's, who you are. I know we want to collate that, so you'd want to have something that's generic enough. But I would just challenge traditional identifiers and go more to even just how do you engage with the town on your phone, on your screen, on a big screen.
Yes, I mean, question as I'm listening, questions that pop into my head, like rather than your age or stuff like that, is like, are you a new resident to town? Have you lived here your whole life? Versus, or are you, because maybe that's it. Like maybe a lot of people who send us emails saying they don't know where stuff is, maybe it's because they're a new resident. Does that mean we need a better new resident packet on the website that's, here's all the things you need to know about town, like a Exeter Bible for, stuff like that. I know other communities have stuff like that. So yeah, maybe some questions along those lines.
That's an interesting identifier, like demographic in terms of your age in relation to the town. I've been here all my life. So content that references historical, even just, recent historical, but content that references things as though people are Exeter natives or New Hampshire natives. So those are the kinds of things that it may not necessarily be age as much as years in relation to the town. But really, I'm just sort of offering that up as for the sake of argument of what, where do we want to plant our stakes so that we're not just data crunching, but we're actually usage mapping. I feel like I offered more questions instead of an answer to your question.
No, I like it. I found it very helpful.
On the other hand,
I started yesterday to send out an email to everyone with some suggested questions. I've done, because being in marketing, I've done a bunch of surveys before. Not that I'm by any means an expert in it. I've only done a few of them, but certain things, come up in creating a survey and just the style of questions. But I think that trying to get at quick demographics of the intended recipient is fine, and to have that at the top of the survey, simple questions. But going back to the suggestion that, is it really reflective of the actual information that's going to benefit us? And then also keeping in mind the length of the survey, right? We don't want to have, probably I'd say less than 10 questions. If you go anything beyond that, or even 10 is quite a bit, you're going to lose people's attention. But it's by no means actually, easy to come up with these questions. But I think that's a good suggestion to keep that in mind when formulating those identifying questions. Like the suggestion to how long have you been affiliated or associated with the town of Exeter, things like that. I would agree with those. Does it really, does it benefit our survey, for instance, to know that, it could, I guess we don't know yet, but that, 40% of the respondents are 65 and older, or that, in a sense, that kind of information would help in further surveys and further information gathering, because perhaps the people that respond to surveys are generally going to be skewed to the older set, you might not even get anybody who is following things, I don't know, on Facebook or so, or the 20-year-olds or the 20 to 30-year-old demographic might be a lot smaller than the 40 to 80 demographic, for instance. But does that really matter? I mean, it does matter to us because we want to figure out how people are getting their information. So I think that's definitely something
and that brings up a whole nother thing, and that's where I think maybe it's good to have those in the something like one age question or something. Just I think if we did find out that all of the people who took the survey are over the age of 50, we would know we have to do more outreach to people under 50, for example, or something, because we don't want to inform all of our decisions of forming a communications master plan to people who just filled out the survey or something. So, I mean, and that's where I'm not going to fill out a survey unless I can get a free gift card or something. And I was thinking of that the other day because we did that for a PEG station, like community access station survey for the whole state of New Hampshire that I did. There were 3 $100 Visa gift cards that we gave out. And we did one the first month, and then the second month, all the people who didn't win and people who completed it entered in. So there's like an incentive to fill it out earlier, and your chances are increased as you fill it out quicker. But anyways, that could be something. I don't think we have any budget or anything, but perhaps the select board or someone could find something, because even if we just got some local business gift cards to incentivize people to fill this out, do a random drawing, whatever, that it's a little thing, but it really helps to drive people to fill this out, because it may take 10 minutes to fill this out when we're done, and that's a lot of time for a lot of people. So
Can we raffle off some of the equipment over there?
Sure.
Discount on taxes, something like that, right?
Yeah, we'll propose tax abatements to the select board and see how that goes over. No, I think that's a good conversation too. How do we advertise the survey in the first place? I just think procedurally, if we have what we think is the perfect version of the survey completed, I would think the next step would be voting on it, making the recommendation to the select board, and then maybe presenting at the following select board meeting and getting their input on it as well, just so that they can kind of give it the final blessing and vote. And then, there's I guess a separate conversation on how to advertise it. I think every platform that the town has to advertise it, I think we should be. Even just word of mouth. Maybe the select board can actually make a special announcement about it during one of their meetings, just that we do have, we want to remind our residents that we have an ongoing survey. And, as far as prizes or incentives, we can also talk about that. I assume there is no budget for this, but, if there is, or if the select board is willing to allocate money for it, then I think that would be even better.
And I can definitely try and look into that a little bit, if there's any sort of budget for that. Because I know the other thing, I would want to do Facebook boosting is just one, because then it forces it on people's feeds, in the Exeter area or something like that. And, other departments have used that for different events, or I believe we may have even done that for the parking survey that was through the RPC. So, a question, if we put it out on all the platforms, we should definitely have a question. How did you hear about the survey? Because there's all the, when you, apply for a job or something, it's where did you hear about the job posting? Because they want to know the feedback, which channel is working to get out the information to people. So, because a lot of people will maybe say, oh, I heard at the select board meeting. Oh, no, I heard it on the Facebook post. And if nobody clicked the something that we paid a lot of money for, then we realized we shouldn't even use that or something like that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All of that makes sense. Okay. Well, I think we're having a really great discussion. I'm glad we have people with marketing and business backgrounds that are able to speak to, I learned a new word today, psychographics. I had not heard that before, but I like it. So we're coming up on the hour, and I know we went a little over last time. I'm going to, we'll try to kind of keep it to the hour so people can get on with their day. So we've have a lot to think about here. I think what we may do, and Nina, we've just decided going forward, there's a open meeting statute in New Hampshire that we've been trying to comply with, and I think any public board members, if they are communicating about town business via email, it could be considered a private meeting or a non-public meeting.
Oh, right.
So we just have to be careful. So I think what we've decided is the safest route is just if you have survey question suggestions, it's just emailing them directly to Bob, and Bob has been compiling them all into his kind of the master draft of the survey right now, and then we can all look at that at the next meeting. So I think what we can do is, unless anyone else has any questions, I think maybe the best thing we could do is just speak briefly about maybe a timeline. And I certainly don't want to rush anything, because it's better to have a quality survey than a survey that's put out quickly. My thought, maybe this is too ambitious, is to try to get the survey out maybe by the end of this calendar year, by the end of 2020, and maybe within the next, maybe by Q4, the last quarter of the year, try to have something finalized to present to the select board, and at least then we can hand it to them, and we can get, kind of leave it up to the select board to take it up on their own time. But then at least we've kind of fulfilled part of our mission there. Is that okay with people? Do we feel like we should give it more time or less time? I don't know if.
I'd say that definitely feels achievable. Yeah,
I think now. I mean, that gives us approximately 6 months to get it out there. And there may be, around the holidays, that could be a higher traffic time where, people are viewing the website more, trying to get updates on different, town events, holiday events. So it might just be incidentally they bump into, if they hadn't heard of it before, oh, Exeter's doing this survey. Let me, take a few minutes and do that. So, okay. Go ahead, Nina.
I would maybe suggest, I know that we only meet, once a month, so it's a little hard, but if we could get it out, say in late fall, just as a timeline, and also considering our current situation with the pandemic, a lot more people, I think you will find, have been going to the town website and seeking out information from local businesses on, closings and procedures and so forth. So I think it would be interesting, and I assume Bob has access to the Google Analytics of the town website or whatever, to see that bump in traffic. So while it's sort of in people's mind, this whole idea of getting information during this time, to throw out that survey, a little earlier than the end of the year. But I definitely agree that it's gonna take some time. And I'd also like to propose that in the meantime, we start considering. Okay, once we have this information from the survey and we understand how people are gathering information, stepping back a little there beforehand and actually creating a communication plan that could be provided to other committee members, to town offices, so forth, that really helps everyone understand how to distribute the information that you have. And this is coming from our discussions on the Sustainability Committee on how to get our information out to the general public. So I think it's an important task of the Communications Committee to actually formulate a communication plan that would coincide with the survey.
Yep, that's definitely. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Oh yeah, I was just going to echo, what she was saying about doing it a little bit earlier as well, because thinking of the two elections we have in September and November, if you just had a big poster board as people were leaving with a website they can go to fill out the survey, or depending on how safety measures are at that point, hopefully things improve, but we could hand out even just like a little piece of paper with the information or something that people can pick up on the table as they leave, or have somebody outside. I probably, in an ideal world, it'd be nice to have an iPad. People could just go through and do it, but it's probably not the safest at this point. But something. Those are where we're going to get a lot of traffic to people moving through. So, and also on the website, like you mentioned, around the holidays and around those elections, people are going to be going right there. So, definitely.
So what are people's schedules looking like? So for setting the next meeting, I mean, let me pull it up. I guess just within the next couple of weeks. I know Tuesday mornings has been our preference. Could people meet at the end of July in 2 weeks on Tuesday the 28th at 9 a.m.? Can anyone think of any immediate conflicts?
I could do that. It's tough. It'll be tough for me to do every 2 weeks forever, but in the interest of sort of getting the survey moving along, I could definitely do the 28th.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I don't anticipate meeting every 2 weeks indefinitely, but if it helps us just get through this fall season and just push out this survey when, as we've all agreed, it's going to be higher traffic people, that would be great. Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you, Lindsay, are you in touch with Marcia? Do we know how to reach her? I think there's an email for her.
All I've ever had is email. I think she must read them.
Okay.
I can try another route.
Okay. Yeah. Just to keep her in the loop, I wouldn't want her to come back and, she's left out of all of these discussions because she's only waiting for us to meet in person, which could be 2025. Who knows?
Right.
The way.
Good thought.
So, if she still, wants to have some input into all of this, that would be great. And I'm happy to, we could jump on a phone call if maybe that's an easier platform for her. Does Nina and Bob and Selectman Brown, does the 28th at 9 a.m. work for you all?
Yeah, for me. So far, that should be fine.
Okay. And then
that works for them.
Okay, perfect. And then, in the interim, if committee members are, if the spirit moves you, you can email Bob directly with some suggested questions for the survey based on some of our discussions today. I think we did have some, great discussions about particularly like what kind of demographic information or psychographic information would be most helpful. And as far as the content, I think we probably all agree. I think we're just trying to ask questions that best ascertain the platforms that people want to use, the content that people will use them for in order to, the kind of information they're looking for, and then how can we improve that? Are there different platforms we can use? Is there different kind of content you're looking for? I think those kinds of questions to really sort of probe, what people's perspective is on the town communications, I think would be great. So unless there's any other business, I don't think there was anything else on the agenda for
I mean, I just wanted to mention that I did speak with Dave Sharples, the town planner, and Chris Zigmond from the Sustainability Advisory Committee, kind of on what Nina had mentioned. You know, I know they're really pushing for like some plan, and we kind of have something. We're gonna utilize the town Facebook page to help get out some information, and also Exeter TV and the town website, and sort of a proposal that I had to kind of do more press release type stuff about what committees are up to. If anyone has any ideas on committee communication or something outwards, you can send them my way. And then the other thing someone brought up to me, and I mean it's up to you guys if you guys have any ideas of how better we can do this. Is some people can't ever find out how to access these meetings, and I think we put it everywhere, but some people will say that, they'll call me right when the meeting's happening and they don't know how to get on. So it's another thing if anyone has any ideas or brainstorms. And then the last thing I want to say is just how we're compiling questions for the survey. If people had ideas pop into their head about potential policy or strategic plans, master plans for communications, I could also start compiling those in a document as well. So if you have an idea pop in your head, feel free to shoot it to me in an email, and I can start to put that together, as a working draft as well. So,
will you send us the link to what you have now, and then Connor, feel free to prod to get us to work on it and send Bob questions and input and stuff. I like prodding.
Yeah,
I like reminders.
Yeah, I'll send you guys the draft of what we have for both the survey and the kind of the document for the questions. I would just ask that you, like Connor mentioned, don't just type it into the Google Doc. Just shoot them to me in an email.
Quick question? Is it okay that we will for the emailing email you, Bob, but then CC Connor since he's our.
I think you can email. You could probably CC just Connor as the chair and I, but you shouldn't email anyone else.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Okay, but we can include just so Connor's aware of.
Yep.
As the chair.
I mean, when in doubt, when you get an email, just don't do a reply all.
Right.
And it's always better just to email the chair or myself.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, great. So yeah, if anybody, if anyone has suggested questions for the survey, if anyone has suggested items for the communications master plan, I also really like the idea Bob mentioned of doing like a new resident packet, welcome to Exeter packet, or having just some information available. I don't know if you were on the call for that, Nina, but Bob had suggested that. I think that's great. And as a fairly new resident, I think, just giving just a, even if it's just a one sheet of, contacts or, addresses of things, how to access the town. I mean, where things are. And I think that's great. I have to think more about what could be included in that, but I think that's great. Yeah. Oh, and then Bob, just quickly, if you track down an email address for Nick, I have
the email ready to hit send. So.
Oh, perfect. Wonderful. And then I can follow up with him. Again, it's completely up to him. But I think, he could be a valuable member of the board moving forward. All right. This is great. I think we had a great meeting. I will type up just a brief description for the notes of the meeting, and I will I think I'll just email them directly to Pam, and then Pam, I think it's Joanna, filling in for her this week. She can post it to the website. Was there any other items?
I mean, technically for the minutes, and you could probably do that, but you might also, like usually what the other boards would do is you would bring them to the next meeting. We would just look it over for any glaring inconsistencies or whatever. Usually it's just a couple typos or something, and then we can send it along. But you can send if you know how to put a watermark or Pam or I guess Joanna could do it, but it would be like a draft that you send to her, so that it's not the final minutes.
Okay. No, yeah, that you're right. And we can approve the minutes at the following meeting and then post the minutes from the prior meeting. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that's good. So that's what I'll do. I'll create a draft of the minutes, and then I'll bring them to our meeting on the 28th. Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. Did anybody else have anything else?
No.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
It looks like Daryl was asking something.
Just letting you know, I emailed the group with the link that referred to the psychographic type of data. So I'm not sure. I was trying to just put it in the chat, but I guess that's not, so hopefully
we disabled the chat in Zoom for 91A reasons.
Sending to all, I guess if we could put that link in the next minutes, that would be.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And that should be a great article. So that I would encourage everyone to read it. That might give us some insight on the psychographic questions. Okay, well, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, great. Well, with that, I wish everybody a great couple weeks. We will see everyone on Tuesday morning.